Hi, I'm Andrew Chisholm. I'm Executive Creative Director on McDonald's at Cossette.
My name is Driscoll Reid. I'm Chief Creative Officer at Cossette, Toronto. Cossette was originated in Quebec City in 1972. We've been around for 53 years. We now have offices in 5 cities across Canada, and we're one of Canada's oldest and largest advertising agencies.
It's a bit of a Canadian institution, actually.
So we are creating work that not only resonates here in Canada, but globally as well.
Today, we're going to talk about a campaign that we did in 2024 for McDonald's.
It's called Remix Menu. It features an musical artist named Lil Yachty.
If you don't know, sort of an award-winning rapper musician, former McDonald's employee, who we engaged for this program and did some pretty interesting work together.
Awesome. Welcome to studio, guys. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having us.
It's exciting to dig into this project because I don't know much about it, but I do know the client, and it's one that I think all of our audience will recognize. So that's going to be cool because I think people will find a lot of insights and value and also personal connection with this brand. So why don't we set it up? What are we talking about today?
Well, today we're talking about, as you pointed out, we're talking about McDonald's Canada more specifically.
And for our audience, that is a fast food franchise, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Small one
with big arches and the bajillion locations and everything. Yeah. So we're actually talking about a campaign that was originally done in 1989, going way back, and it was a contest that they held in the U.S. and it was all about the McDonald's menu song. And so, there was a big commercial campaign where people went to the counter and they ordered the McDonald's menu as a song from beginning to end, every single menu item. And they actually sort of parlayed that into a contest. It was sort of, I guess, one of the original sort of CRM campaigns even. And the winner won $1 million. So you would get this record, and, there's a contest around who could do it the best. I'm gonna have to double check that because I'm not totally sure it's true. But at any rate, it's something that was really sort of ripe, I think, for a bit of a comeback or remix, I guess you could say. And what was quite interesting is that we looked into sort of behaviors online, and people were doing social and things like that, and singing the menu, singing their order is actually still a really popular thing.
Oh wow! Do. Okay.
And so, it kind of felt like the right time. It wasn't necessarily based on any kind of anniversary, but it was just something that was happening in culture. And we saw it really kind of piqued our interest. And we thought that there would be kind of a really interesting way that we could sort of reimagine this really iconic campaign.
So also, was this something that was you pushed for it from agency, or was it, where did this come from in terms of the impetus to make it into a client engagement?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the amazing things about McDonald's is that they are sort of very much in the cultural zeitgeist, as a global brand. And so I think, as agency partners, we're constantly going to them with sort of proactive thinking and ways of sort of elevating that profile. So this was actually something that was presented, by Cossette as a way to sort of, again, find this moment in time to really bring back something truly iconic within their sort of their history, their brand history.
Yeah.
But do it in a really sort of fresh new way for a new audience, a new cohort. And there was just a lot more to it even than the song and sort of who we chose, but sort of, taking into some of that behavior around people even sort of customizing their own menu items that are on the McDonald's. So there's actually a lot to pull from in culture to sort of make the campaign what it was. And
okay. So before we jump into it, because I want to see where this started, I want to see the old ad. But before we do that, let's just set up what the relationship Cossette has with McDonald's is. So I assume this is you guys have a long-standing relationship with this client, right?
Yes.
How long?
Yeah, I mean, I think over 4 decades. I'm
what? Over 4 decades?
Yes. So, I mean, keep me honest here, Andrew. But I'm relatively new to Cossette and
right.
Canada.
Right.
I moved here last year.
Bienvenue.
Merci. But, big reason why I moved here was this relationship Cossette has with McDonald's. They've been doing work for over 4 decades. Cossette itself is 53 years old, originated in Quebec. And the first McDonald's opened here, I think, in 1967.
In BC, right?
Yeah, in BC. The only reason I know that is because I'm now a Leafs fan here as well.
Okay.
But the other thing that's really unique about
The Leafs are from Toronto, by the way.
yeah. The other thing that's really unique about McDonald's in Canada is it's one of the few countries in the world outside of the United States that we get to basically make our own work for this market.
Okay.
So I think
So it's not a global account; it's a Canada-specific account.
it is. Yes.
It is, but it sort of functions very much as a global account. So,
So they have budget.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I said, it's a sort of global icon brand, and the work that we aspire to create is not just for Canadians, but sort of just for for everybody, and that's sort of the appeal of the brand and sort of why it's so universally resonant.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of just sort of competing on a global scale, that's like a personal event. Like that's how we're sort of the kind of work that we try to do. And but yeah, it's very much it's for a Canadian audience, but again, it's McDonald's, so it has to sort of be this really sort of, I think the human truths that come out in the work are things that resonate with everybody. So if I could give a quick little background here. So this is something weirdly before I joined, something that had just sort of stuck with me since I was a kid, and I memorized it. And I remember even going to McDonald's and getting it. Came in like this little accordion printout, and you could memorize all the lyrics. And so it's interesting how sort of these things stick with you. And again, it sort of was the appeal, I think, of wanting to take this job initially, was just sort of what it meant to me as a kid, and that place in childhood and nostalgia that I had. And lo and behold, it was the sort of first thing I was a part of.
So the campaign in the 80s, that was 89, you said, ran across North America.
Yeah, I think, and again, there was probably slight differences because our menus are actually a little bit different between Canada and the United States. So there's, I believe that, again, that was the US version, and there was a Canadian version that was a little bit unique for this market as well. So all this to say, having kind of unearthed this thing from way back, and something that's been sort of permanently seared into my memory, it just kind of felt like the right moment to sort of reimagine it in a different way, given how sort of iconic it was. And so, yeah, we took a bit of a different approach in terms of sort of how we brought this to life. But again, still really leaning into a lot of what I think was appealing in the first place. It was this iconicity of the menu items themselves, and the fact that people are still sort of singing their orders and putting those videos on TikTok and so forth. So, yeah.
Conceptually, so the idea struck internally, and you guys were talking about it for this account. You're saying these guys are going to love this. This is an awesome idea. How did you approach kind of pitching it?
Well, it went a couple of, so it's funny, when getting to the sort of final iteration of what this was, and there was many, many rounds in terms of how do we sort of tell this story, who's the right person to do that story. And so there was a lot of kind of conversation back and forth about who was right, what wasn't right. But all we knew is that at the core of it, there was this song that we wanted to sort of recreate some way, somehow. And again, kind of like really tapping into what we were seeing in culture and people doing. And I think what's more in sort of what really kind of helped inform even the sort of overarching theme of the campaign is this idea of remixing. It went just beyond the song. It actually went into, as I alluded to earlier, what we were seeing on social, and people hacking the menu and doing like these sorts of really cool concoctions on their own and posting about it and being like, McDonald's should do this. And so what this, the concept of remix allowed us to do, I guess permission to do, is really sort of tap into that zeitgeist. And we actually created a net new menu with a lot of the things that people were sort of like, quote unquote, like asking for. So we created like a surf and turf burger. So again, like reimagining and remixing some of our core favorites to sort of fit within this campaign. So it was actually really a very it wasn't just sort of remix in execution or theory. It actually, we went right from.
But that came with this like envisioning and pitch process, or after talking with client?
Yeah, I mean, well, again,
because did you walk into a meeting being like, okay, McDonald's, we know we can communicate and we're friends. we want to remix your menu, and a guy fell off the chair.
Well, actually, it's initially we were kind of thinking maybe this is just like even a Super Bowl spot we do, it's just, and so there were some really great pushes from them as well to kind of think about how can we integrate, some of our menu into just this concept. This concept just felt really like, again, robust and ripe. And I think that even, Cossette, like we all felt that if it was just going to be that, I think it would have been a bit of a miss. So, it was a really good push for us just to kind of take a step back and think about how you could kind of execute this idea, this theme in all these different channels that are actually going to be really resonant with the audience. So we didn't want this just to come across as a one-off thing and it's a great spot, but like what else? We really wanted to like understand what people were doing in culture and kind of deliver on that.
And all the work we do at Cossette, but especially McDonald's, it really starts at a place of truth, right? Finding something that is honest and can resonate. And like Andrew was saying, it's like that notion of remix culture is super relevant, current.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think obviously you think of the word remix, you go straight to music.
Yeah, I'm a DJ, man.
Okay.
I used to perform all over the world. And
all right.
Yeah, and talking remix, I mean, I had a song on my friend DJ Spooky. You know who DJ Spooky is? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Ninja Tune?
He didn't release on Ninja Tune.
Okay.
But I used to work at Ninja Tune.
All right. Another conversation.
Way back in the day. That's another episode right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked at the Montreal distribution office and I was paid in records, and we literally, our job was to like take a hairdryer to cellophane and just seal it all.
Yeah.
Kid Koala.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Sorry. We're getting off topic here.
But we're off topic, but we're on topic because I think this idea of remix, of course, there's a whole legacy concept backing it, right? Which is taking something, making something of your own with it, and not necessarily getting bogged down in like rights and ownership. It's really just about the freedom to express your passion for what the subject matter is, or the media is, right? So goes back.
Well, so yeah, I'm going to share the sort of an extended version, and I think one of the benefits of working with artists like Lil Yachty, who's just again like this amazing talent, multidisciplinary artist, like he's award winning, and we chose him for all of those reasons, but also just sort of like who he was and sort of like he has his own sort of personal style. Like just really was a really nice fit with McDonald's, and again, just I think in sort of how we imagined wanted to reimagine this new iteration. There was like nobody better suited for it than him.
Oh, you've set this up a hybrid.
Really have, yeah. And then to boot, he was also an ex McDonald's crew member as well. So there was like a bit of an affinity already there with him. So he was super excited to work on the project with us. So this extended version, has some of the behind the scenes of him sort of recording in the booth and stuff like that. But yeah, he basically, helped recreate this song from his own imagination. And we sort of built out a world that's very much sort of McDonald's and Lil Yachty combined. So it's this sort of really interesting interpretation and a nice contrast, I think, from what we saw in the original.
Okay, so there's a few themes in that piece that I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also a few techniques in that piece that were interesting. Okay, so let's talk about that piece maybe, and then we'll talk about the ecosystem around it, as you fleshed out a campaign. Okay, so one thing, the MO to reinterpret that campaign was carte blanche with the artist, or how did that get negotiated?
That was a really interesting one because, you could have taken this any which way. I think the song, as you heard in the original form, was just straight ahead to camera. And it was, and so again, the selection process in terms of the artist, the genre was very much open for debate. And I think when you're also working with an artist like Yachty, whose style is like always evolving and changing, it's like he might want to do something different like next week than this week, so it was a very collaborative process. We worked with a music house in LA, a great partner of ours called Beacon Street Studios. And so they were really helpful in sort of creating the bass track. And then, so we would sort of work with Yachty and sort of see what he was liking the most. And then he kind of just took it from there and infused his own kind of personal style against it. So, again, we really wanted to pull a lot of like ephemera from like, who he is and what he is and sort of help build out that world, but kind of very much keeping it in that McDonald's sort of vibe and space.
Sure. This actual spot. So this is an ad spot. This runs on TV and stuff.
Yeah, there was a couple of different versions. This was the 90s, so this was ran on social primarily because there was all the behind the scenes stuff. But there was we did like a 30-second broadcast spot that was sort of a more condensed version of that, and then we did sort of 2 individual 15s that were again kind of heroing in on some of the specific menu items that were like new on offer. So there was like a sweet chili junior chicken, and there was, if I'm not mistaken, there was the second one was the surf and turf. Don't quote me on that, but it was a while ago. But yeah, so that's something that we really again promoted individually, and again saw like a lot of really great sales results too, which was nice.
That's interesting.
And for me, it's like when this work was coming out, I hadn't even started at Cossette yet.
Right.
So I'd already agreed to move here, be part of Cossette. And then I saw this work that came out that Andrew worked on and the team worked on. And I was like, yes, I was like, so happy,
Psyched, right?
so excited. And just like, the level of work and sort of, creating work that, wasn't sort of necessarily, sort of limited to borders, sort of work that could resonate beyond borders, something that had some cultural resonance globally. So,
right.
I mean, you think of playing in the world of music, working with an international artist. I think it was just a real testament to the team, but also to kind of the abilities at Cossette. And also I think to our partners at McDonald's too, like just sort of their willingness to create work that isn't so country specific necessarily.
Well, this is interesting. Okay. So the international artist who obviously has global acclaim and probably a massive footprint of, in his own audience or supporters in the States. Yeah. So this piece and this campaign is relevant, I would think, to the American market. Was that an intention that it could be like leveraged? The assets could be leveraged outside of the borders?
We do, from a market standpoint, we do tend to operate like this was for the Canadian audience. But I think when you have someone like that, I mean, the crossover appeal is like, as Driscoll pointed out, borders don't really matter. So we just wanted the right person to bring this to life, regardless of sort of where they're from. And
how did you know that in Canada, Lil Yachty is like known and loved as a brand advocate or influencer for McDonald's? Well,
I mean, we do a ton of research in social listening, and we have some very, very smart people on our team that sort of are really, really tapped into this kind of thing. So it was a very informed decision. I know even like going back, his relationship with Drake too is also really kind of pivotal in terms of like sort of that sort of resonance and that
they're friends
cachet in Canada. Yeah.
They hang out.
Yeah. So no, I mean, it was a very deliberate choice. And I think based on like a lot of criteria that's just sort of fit well with the brand and sort of his style. But yeah, it was I think it just goes to show sort of like the power of an idea that, finding that perfect combination of who that person is and the right brand, and then the perfect expression of those two things coming together.
Sure. You talked about this longer spot that we reviewed right now being kind of for social because it's longer, but also you integrated this BTS vibe into it. Was that staged BTS or was that real, in the sense that he's in a green screen, but then there's that walkthrough of the store, which I know typically you're filming in a volume these days, right? No, we actually have a physical set that we've built that's sort of a permanent structure that we've been using. Actually, we built it for that campaign specifically, but it is a physical set that exists. So then the green screen was like a set, or the green screen backdrop in the psych was a set.
Yeah, as you saw in the spot, like we sort of chose a lot of different like worlds to put up against that, and that was something that was, again, kind of more of a deliberate one, but we actually had the sort of A cam running for the broadcast spot, but sort of shooting him in different moments up against the green screen that we would then sort of impose whatever was sort of fitting that mood, whether it was the yellow brick road or the,
the ice cube.
Yeah, the ice cube.
Yeah, the ice cube. Yeah,
yeah,
that was slippery.
But no, we actually, when he was recording, we had a content creator go down to Atlanta and sort of film him in studio and in those sessions and stuff like that. So,
cool.
Yeah, so it was a pretty cool kind of glimpse into his process as well.
So the original spot that we looked at, very, singable and almost a challenge, I would assume. If I recall, I don't even remember this because like I am old enough and I should remember this. But at the same time, that was a hot summer And there was the Pepsi taste test challenge going on.
That's
Probably around the same time.
I was busy, man.
Yeah. 89 was a good.
Yeah, that was a good summer.
Yeah.
Public Enemy, right?
Okay.
That was like Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing. That was the same summer.
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
So lots going on. But yeah, okay. So the original spot, very repeatable, challenge almost song, right? So for people to watch and be like, can you do it? Can you do it? Right. And you said that worked, there was a prize, right?
Yeah.
So did you bring that into this one? How did you calculate the song's kind of, let's call it like cultural impact? And is that built into the campaign?
Yes. So I think what kind of started as the inspiration for this was sort of twofold. Well, actually threefold, I guess. Was a sort of the homage to the original, but also sort of like looking at what was happening on social and like people singing the menu in their own way and like getting millions of views on TikTok. And again, like there's sort of a challenge element. It's how fast you can do it and all that kind of thing. And then there was that sort of other component as well, which was what people were sort of naturally doing and taking these food items and sort of making it their own. So there was like kind of three things at work there. But in terms of how we extended the idea, like we really wanted to come across as authentic to the behavior that we were seeing. So we created like filters. We created like a TikTok tool like that you could actually sort of do your own version of the track. There was a little hub that we had created so you could like upload. And so there was a lot of engagement in that sense. And I would say actually one of the sort of funniest / sort of like weirdly resonant things that I heard from just like an old colleague who's now a CMO, she kind of said like, thanks, but like now I can't get my 9-year-old to stop singing these things. So it's like it was kind of a full circle moment because it was something that at that age I recalled, and I'm happy that I passed it on to the next generation.
And going back to this concept of remix culture and kind of like updating for audience today, right? Because I've seen the button and I've never even played with it. I can't believe I haven't. Some moral issue I have, but in like all of these social networks now, there's a remix button typically, right? I think you could take someone's content and I don't know what you do with it. Is it a trimming tool slapped in with some like soundtrack overlay and maybe voiceover?
Oh, for like what we had done with it, or?
Well, technically, how are the kids using the social networks to live remix? Like, what's the functional expectation of remix in today's zeitgeist?
I mean, in terms of
well, I mean, personally, I don't know the exact answer to that question, but I do think like remix culture is like, when you think of fashion, you think of obviously music, but when it comes to fashion, sports, like how people are playing sports now. Like, I mean, I think there's just this notion of like taking things that people have done in the past and updating it in a more personal and unique way. And maybe that's a guess, but I feel like, beyond the work we did for Remix Menu, I think it's also like part of it's maybe potentially something that's like more pertinent to this current generation. Not that we didn't, but like, I think it was more like we were kind of absorbing culture in a different way, obviously. So
let's talk about the Remix Menu.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a song. You said you cut it up in different ways for different spots for different channels or platforms. But then also, the IRL version is you can actually choose menu items that weren't there before, or you can recombine menu items.
So they were like what we were seeing in culture is people just, again, like there was something we were sort of talking about as we were launching the campaign, or just before. There was like it was actually one of our team members sort of sent us this link, and it was like a morning show, and this DJ was talking about how there's like a certain group of people who would like line up at McDonald's just as they're switching over from breakfast to lunch.
Oh, I didn't. And so it's on a 24-hour menu.
Certain locations, but like there was basically like a way in a certain sweet spot that you could create like a brunch burger. So it was like getting like a quarter pounder and still getting the egg from the Egg McMuffin and being able to like assemble it yourself.
Interesting.
So there's like there was just the tip of the iceberg though. Like we kept finding more and more examples of people who were like putting different sauces on their burgers, or like switching patties out, or like putting a McChicken with a quarter pounder. And so it's kind of like endless just to see this behavior and like what people were dipping fries in and all that kind of stuff. So it was really like a matter of just seeing that and recognizing it and thinking, okay, how can we like do it in a way that, again, feels really authentic to what people are already doing, but something that we can also do, you know, operationally at McDonald's. So this particular menu was something, it was like there were sort of 4 sort of established, like they were like items you could order. But again, they do like this really amazing process of tasting. And so they were really like perfected items. Like the surf and turf was like amazing. And
was there's some crazy stat on like the surf and turf burger? Like
like sales wise, I mean, it just did.
Like, what was the surf and turf burger?
I mean, as it sounds, it was the Filet-O-Fish patty. And it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2 beef patties. So it wasn't a QPC, but it was it was a big burger, but it was
quite
like
a commitment.
Really worked. Like it really, like the bite was, the fish and the beef together was actually like I was really, really blown away by it.
Wow.
I mean,
fan.
I don't think we want to necessarily encourage people to do this, but I think you can go to McDonald's and like order kind of whatever you want. Like it's like, I don't know. My wife went to an art school and there's a video of her. She did as an art project going to McDonald's and ordering the most outlandish,
like saying, can you give me 3 of those, but
like a Big Mac, but with McChicken instead of the buns.
Oh yeah.
Like that kind of a thing.
And ask them to do it. And they did it for her.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think they will do that. I think.
Yeah. I say this. I mean, I was a former crew member, in way back. So, yeah, I, you know, especially when you're working late, you would get a lot of times you'd get these requests to drive through, or I was on like the bun station and then the flat top. And so you get sometimes these requests for like a Filet-O-Fish bun with just like onions and lettuce. And you're like,
you roll your eyes.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, people like, it's pretty endless in terms of like what people.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, this is going back.
So this goes deep. This whole idea of remixing the menu goes deep. People are doing it.
Well,
They've been doing it.
Cultural icon. It was, I mean, there's so much affinity that people have for it and just a relationship with it that goes beyond just the dining experience. Again, like as we're sort of talking about it, just like what is sort of part of your core memory growing up. And so, yeah, I mean, people like the sort of, I don't know, I would almost say like the creative outlet that people have even with the brand is something that we were really interested in seeing.
So again, on that menu, there's 4 items you said.
Mm-hmm.
You got this surf and turf thing.
There's the sweet chili junior chicken. There was a McFlurry, apple pie McFlurry, which was also like a big hit. So it's like, as you can imagine, had the apple pie stuck in it. And then there was there's another cheeseburger, and I'm not doing it justice, but it had like a little spin on it. So yeah, was
this a limited time thing?
Yeah, 5 weeks. So it was a program that launched, I believe, in April of 2024, and it runs for 5 weeks. And yeah, I mean, again, the response that we got from it, not only just from an engagement perspective, I mean, it lifted all kinds of brand scores in terms of affinity, but the sales and sort of the success it had of business results were really, really impressive. So,
any learnings from that output that you could kind of, summarize or relate?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting, and I think, not saying that we necessarily uncovered this, but I think as a brand that sort of like lives and breathes in that space, there's always the opportunity to like see what else is out there, like what else are people, doing and drawn to, and so that actually informed a campaign that we did just right on the heels of that again kind of interpreted an element of their past, re-inspired and or sort of reimagined in a different way. And again, not doing it the same way and really looking at how, this particular target of people were, like, I mean, without getting into specifics, it's like, I'm talking about it cryptically, it's out in the world, but yeah, it was just, again, just this taking the same approach to like how the Gen Z and like how a younger generation people are interacting with the brand, how they're consuming like art, sports, like it's all a little bit different. And we sort of like wanted to live in that space.
Yeah. I mean, there's not too many brands out there that have the cultural sort of
reach, I would say.
Well, reach, but also I think permission to sort of kind of talk about culture in interesting ways.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's true. It's true because of the nature of the product, because of the ubiquity of the brand, the brand ubiquity. and the price point of the product line.
Yeah, it's accessible. People have a connection to it. You know, and like Andrew was saying, so the next campaign we did for McDonald's, or next big campaign, I should say, was around sports, and it featured Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, and it was about, you have the two kind of biggest names in hockey. So again, it's sort of like, okay, we took our learnings from Remixed Menu, Lil Yachty, and it's like, okay, how can we apply that through the lens of sports now?
I love it.
And I think also when we did Remixed Menu, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the first time we actually got to impact the menu. Or
it has been done in other markets, but in Canada, I believe it was the first.
But for
kind,
it was unique. So that led us to, when we did the next campaign, that was part of the presentation as well. It was like, in addition to the work, the 360 work, here's our suggestion for the new menu. And so again, it's kind of become part of our work now when we're collaborating with McDonald's, is sort of like, hey, in addition to the campaign, here's the suggestions on what you could do for a menu potentially around this. And I think it's super unique.
That's huge. I mean, this is the kind of thing that happens when there's trust between both sides of the table. Totally. And you always want, I think we're seeing evolutions on a macro level in the industry where, a narrative, especially for a brand like this, like you said, that has, I would say, a captive audience and has used media for decades to communicate with its, customer base in a way that develops audience rather than just having customers that are kind of, push media. People feel part of a story.
Totally.
And it's like, there's inside jokes that you can kind of do. There's that whole like FOMO thing that you play up on a short-term menu item or whatever. So it's exciting. Where you guys sit is kind of fun with a client like this. You could play with it and communicate with them on what's possible without being afraid of like being laughed out of the room.
No, it's actually an amazingly collaborative relationship. And I think, in terms of how we sort of hold ourselves to certain standards and really kind of understanding an audience. And we always talk about going deep and really like mining true insights that are going to resonate. And you touched on it with fans. I mean, it's not just a customer base. It's like there's true fandom with the brand.
From an agency perspective or otherwise from within the client experience perspective, lessons from this campaign
within Remix specifically.
Yeah.
I think like the big lesson was just like listen to your audience, and I think that we were again just so amazed at sort of what people were doing inherently with the brand and how they were interacting with it, that I think if you show up in ways that are reflective and authentic and true, you're rewarded for it. So I think some of the learnings we took away from that were just sort of, again, going deep and really mining these insights and these truths and sort of showing up in a way that feels right and not forced. And I think business results kind of spoke for themselves. So
but on that note, like business results even across the country, was there any trends that you picked up on? Like something I'm trying to get at, like, do Winnipeggers like one menu item better than, Toronto?
There's like that specificity.
Like, fun anecdotes to do with,
well, what's interesting too, and like what makes Cossette work is, again, we've got presence from coast to coast. And obviously, our partners in Montreal and Quebec, we will work with, to sort of almost transpose certain campaigns to be very resonant with that market as well. So we might even, in certain cases we used like a different star or an inspiration for whatever. And
wait, star? You mean like the Lil Yachty thing is just an example of multiple talents?
So we actually had
alternate universes.
They had their own. Mike Clay was their talent of choice. So they got.
Who's they? Sorry?
He was like a big rapper in Quebec.
But you said their talent of choice. You mean?
Yeah. So when we work with our offices in Montreal and in Quebec, oftentimes we'll sort of like, it'll be different talent,
right?
Sort of to reflect the language and the culture and so forth. So
cool.
Yeah.
I think also like, when you think of a global brand like McDonald's, there's so much great work out there that they do around the world. And what they do is it's I think on a pretty frequent basis, but at least annually, they have these sort of get-togethers where they talk about the work, and we all get to participate and be part of that. And one of the things that was really exciting for me as someone who's new to Cossette is that they highlighted Remix Menu in one of those global gatherings. And so it's just this, it's a testament to the team and the work, like you said, the collaboration, and I think the Remix Menu campaign, in my opinion, has really kind of unlocked something for us. Like the campaigns that are continuing to come out, like the one Andrew talked about, Showdown, and then there's another one coming out that we can't really talk about yet, but it's pretty awesome.
Nice.
So like I think it's a testament. Like you talk about longevity, you talk about relationships. Your Cossette, like as we said, is age. It's 53 years old. 40 years of those we've been working with McDonald's, and I think you only kind of continue to build upon that through trust and collaboration.
Sure.
So it's a special friendship I think we have with them, and we'll continue to. So it's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for bringing the case into the studio, guys.
Yeah.
It was cool to talk it through.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to see what else you guys do for another episode.
All right.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Happy to be
Right
back.
on.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. This is
Wicked.
awesome.
Pleasure.
Yeah.